you want to hear commentary? Do you want to hear some of the best opinions and perspectives on information? Then what you need to tune to is Robert Noir of Normal America. Normal America is a play on words, but he doesn't play with you when it comes to his hard-hitting in your face, sometimes a little bit loud and gruff.
So, we need to wiretap. They left out. Oh, and he said our case is garbage. They again did the exact opposite of the truth. Again.
And other times, a little softer.
Charities of the groups that are sending that money. So, for example, there's been reports, and I haven't...
There's softer sides to Rob, and there's more up in your face. Which one are you going to get? Do you want to listen to somebody who's a little more abnormally smart than you? Do you wish you lived in a normal America? Well, then you need to check out Robert Noir. Noir of Normal America. Check him out today, guys. You won't be disappointed.
Hello. Hey, just let me know real quick if my mic's working. It should be. Everything should be going good. Thank you, Harmony. Thank you, Jeremy Preacher. 223. Thank you all so much. If I miss anyone else, I really appreciate it. Yeah, great panel tonight. So I thought I'm grinding. I'm trying to get as many new subscribers as possible, get my message out there. So I thought, you know what? Why not do a live stream right after the Patriot panel? Maybe I'll get a couple new subscribers, people checking me out. So here I am. Best content provider on the internet. I'm the James Brown of fat, chubby, bearded guys putting content out. Hardest working guy. Trying to put hours and hours out every week just for you. So, no, thanks a lot. I really do appreciate it. The panel was great tonight. First time I met Mike Nificent, thought he was awesome. Kind of exchanged information with him. Hopefully he's someone that'll be on the channel. For those of you who don't know, if you're checking me out not from the Patriot panel, every Monday night, it's going to start being at 9 p.m. Eastern. We do a Super Patriot panel with, there's always 6 of us on there. American Joe put it together. So a lot of fun doing that. It's always great. We had a good discussion there tonight. Next week, I'll be hosting that show. So big opportunity for me. Could have a couple hundred, 300-400 people watching me live. I won't be nervous at all. I love talking to people. So couple things. I'll mention this several times during this live stream because I got yelled at by John Jacobs, one of my followers, because I shut the video down while people were still chatting last night. So I have a Discord channel. So I'm going to try to link said Discord channel. So I'm going to put the link here. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, you have to go to my YouTube channel or DLive account to be able to see my messages. But this should be my Discord channel. So please come one, come all to the Discord channel so we can all chat as a community even after my beautiful face is no longer doing live streams. So what's up, Alan Spence? Yeah, Jeremy Elliott. I was really impressed with Mike Nificent. Right? Right up my alley of someone informed. He's understands exactly what's going on. He comes through things from his own unique angle. I love that. I love it. So, yeah, David, thank you for being here as well. Iron Crane, thank goodness you're here. Please resend me the link to the video that you wanted me to check out or to the stream that you wanted me to check out. I know you sent it to me live during our game night while I was drinking a little. I've gone back and watched the video and the chat's screwing up on me. So if you could send that so I could check it out and get the word out, I'd really appreciate it, Iron Crane. And I know everyone's still picking on my Raisin Bagel-esque curtains. I'm telling you, possibly tomorrow, this could be ended. I might have a background here, so... Yeah, Alan, I just got over a virus myself, so it does suck. All right, let's get to the content. Not everyone's here just to hear Patriot panel. And then we'll see. Because this was impromptu, I don't have any links up, but you could look with me while I search for some of the things that I wanted to talk about. So one of the first things I think it's worth talking about was American Joe and me disagreeing on the gun rights thing. It wasn't really a disagreement. But I love disagreeing. That makes the shows better. So that's good. But I understand American Joe's perspective, and many people have shared the same perspective for me, which is we're fed up of not having a voice. We're fed up with perceiving to lose all the time. We elect these politicians that are supposedly going to be a voice for us, and then they're not a voice for us. And it's frustrating. And, it comes a time where it's like we have to change what we're doing. I think that there's a lot of truth to that. That's why I ran for Congress. That's why I started a channel. I feel like in rural Pennsylvania, we always have people running to represent us. They're like, oh, we respect rural Pennsylvania. And then they get to Washington and they forget where they came from. So I get that mentality. And during the Virginia rally, I had a lot of this in my channel. And some of you are going to disagree. And that's okay. That's great. I don't care what perspective, as long as you're being pseudo-civil. I mean, you can call me names. I don't care about that. But, yeah, you disagree with me all you want. Look up Watchful Warrior. I will. He does shows on Saturday at 8 p.m. Yeah, I will check that out, Iron Crane. Thank you very much. Iron Crane generously donated to me on PayPal. And I'm very, very thankful for that. I'm also going to be begging for money more in the weeks as they go by for some equipment that my computer guy's telling me to get. So I'll show you exactly what I'm trying to purchase so that if you do decide to donate, you know what I'm getting. If you decide not to donate, you're still awesome. I don't mind whatsoever. So the argument is, let's take the Second Amendment on its own, but this could apply to all of the arguments that I talk about here: ending corruption, protecting our First Amendment rights, protecting our Second Amendment rights, protecting our border, etc. This same argument can apply to all of it. Most of us on here agree that it's important to protect those rights. So then let's take it a step further. What is the most effective way to be able to protect those rights? What is the most effective way to rein our government in, to make sure it's not corrupt, to make sure that the rights that the Founding Fathers put forth in the Bill of Rights and in the Constitution are protected to this day? That's where the debate is. And there is room for disagreement here. There certainly is. I'm not going to claim to be the end-all be-all, but all I could do is give you my authentic point of view and try to convince you that I'm right. But if you disagree, that's fine. So let's hit it. The Virginia debate specifically. So there were a lot of people that were upset because Northam came out and said, okay, we're boxing off this area around the Capitol building. You're not allowed to have firearms in there because of some nebulous threat that never manifested. And so basically people complied. There was talk of even the National Guard being brought out. I don't know if that happened. There were snipers on roofs. That's not all that unusual. But nonetheless, they meant business. And if a mass group of people would have tried to get into that zone with their guns, there would have been an armed conflict. And I think that it's a great thing that was avoided. And I don't think that it was a loss to not rush in there. Many people disagreed with me. They thought that true patriots would have charged in with their guns and said, we're not going to listen to this law. It's an infringement on our rights. I think that would be a huge mistake. So let's have the debate. Let's talk about it. I contend that more than who has the most weapons, who has the most people marching, etc., the battle will be fought and won. The war will be won based on information. We see that more and more every day. I think, to me, it's becoming self-evident. So here's the way it works. There are people that are informed. There are people that very much agree with my perspective or agree with the perspective of the corruption of government needing to be outed, of protecting our rights. Many of them are probably you on this show, which I thank you for being here. We might have slight disagreements on things, believe it or not, I know people on the left feel the same way. We disagree on how to solve these problems, but we understand what some of the problems are. For example, I say this all the time: Occupy Wall Street on the left, the Tea Party on the right. They both agreed on the problem. They both agreed that there was massive corporate interests that are taking away the voice of average Americans. It's just, how do we fix that was their disagreement, right? So that's what I'm talking about. What is the most effective way to go about this? Now, surely there are people that vote Democrat in the establishment that have lost their minds. They want full-blown socialism and things like that. I think that's a huge mistake. But I digress. That's for another conversation. But you have to understand, as many people as there are on our side, there are also people that are staunchly on the other side. They're with the establishment. They're very powerful. There are lots of them. They're the bureaucrats that run the government that we don't vote for. They're the wealthy oligarchs that lobby the government and get the laws passed that they want. There are the people in Congress that they're establishment people there. There are the people in the mainstream media, etc. We talk about this all the time. Now, the reason that our side can't declare total victory or their side can't declare total victory is that there is this mass of people in the middle. And those are people that are leaning one way or the other, or they're ignorant of what's going on, or they're undecided, etc. The battle will be won through providing information to those people. For example, just take an issue like impeachment. I said this over and over. It's not enough just to say Romney sucks, vote him out. We need to say that of all of the people that are establishment that were in the Senate, not just the Democrats, even the Republicans. For example, Murkowski, Susan Collins, Alexander. These are people that were supposedly on the fence. What that really means is they were establishment. They were chomping at the bit to get Trump out of there. But they knew that the people in their district would vote them out if they did that. So for fear of losing their job and losing their power, they went along with voting to acquit Trump. But they didn't want to. It's the same with your Second Amendment rights. It's the same with your First Amendment rights. If the establishment could, they would totally take those rights away. Well, why can't they then? And this is an argument you see people make all the time. Well, the military, if they came for your guns, there'd be nothing you could do. But they can't. Why? Because there isn't enough public support to do it. That's where the battle is. It doesn't matter how big the guns of the military are if the people in the military using those guns are average Americans. And if they don't believe in the cause of disarming you or taking away your First Amendment rights. So the establishment knows they don't, despite having almost total control over what shapes the public narrative, they can't achieve their goals yet. That's why they've been slowly incrementing them. Donald Trump's victory is the best chance in my lifetime because it has forced the corruption in your face. So we have a unique perspective to be able to reach out to these people. Some of them are working 9-to-5 jobs. They don't have time. They're not looking into, conspiracy theories or government actions. They're just they want the government to leave them alone, basically. They're just trying to feed their families, pay off their mortgage, have some fun on the weekends, etc. Those are the people I know and love. So it's up to us to be able to reach out to those people and to show them we are the reasonable ones. We are the ones that judge people based on their actions, not on their skin color or the color of hat they're wearing or their gender, etc. We are the ones that want open dialogue. We are the ones that want to protect the rights of even those that disagree with us. That's who we are. And just like, not to get biblical on you, but words are cheap. It's by your actions that people know who you are. And if we show consistently that that's who we are, and we have the facts on our side, and that they're trying to censor us because they know that we're winning the intellectual argument, that's how we win. That's how we start to roll back the infringements on our First Amendment rights, the infringements on our Second Amendment rights, the infringements on abortion laws and these third trimester abortion laws. Storming the Capitol with guns, to me, does the exact opposite of that. Now, I know it seemed to work out in Kentucky, but understand the situation in Kentucky was different. The national spotlight wasn't there. You didn't have the governor that basically said, look, if you bring guns in here, you're going to be taken out by law enforcement. So it was a different situation. If you give the propaganda victory to the other side by saying, well, we've lost all hope. And by the way, I'm not saying American Joe said this. I love the Patriot panel, don't get me wrong. But one of the things that's difficult, it's so hard to have a very nuanced conversation when you have 6 people. So I'm sure me and American Joe will talk about this at length someday. And I'm sure we 99.9% agree. How do I know this? Because American Joe didn't storm the Capitol in Virginia. So he understood that that wasn't a strategic or a moral decision to do so. Why do you think that even with as peaceful as Virginia, I'm so impressed with the Virginia rally. Not only do we have tens of thousands of people come out to support the Second Amendment, they did so politely. There was no bigotry. There was no threats of violence to anyone. Total respect to law enforcement, unlike most left-wing protests you see. They actually cleaned up garbage afterwards to make the place look as good as or better than when they entered it. Look at that compared to like an Antifa protest or an anti-Trump protest, etc. Yet despite all of this, what was the attack the media tried to levy? All they're bigots, all they're violent. Now say what you will about the media and them being propaganda mouthpieces, the enemy of the people. I agree with all that. in general. But they're not dumb. They've been indoctrinating and propagandizing people for decades, so they know what they're doing. Why would we give them the gift? It's clear that the attack they want to make on people defending the Second Amendment is they're violent nuts. They don't care about law enforcement. They're willing to take assault weapons into areas when there was credible threats by KKK members, etc., etc., etc. So we should not give them that gift. That's all I'm saying. Once we start to persuade the masses, once we start to win over that argument, and we will, because we are on the correct side of the issue with this defending the Second Amendment, then we can start to make inroads. If we say, well, we've lost the information battle, now we need to escalate, I think that's a huge mistake. And I think if that happened, if patriots would have stormed where they weren't allowed to have guns in Virginia, and they would have been locked up or a shootout would have ensued, I guarantee that the average American that's maybe undecided on the issue would have leaned, I'm not saying they would have totally went, but they would have started to lean to the establishment's point of view. They'd have said, oh, look at these nuts. Yep. Don't believe me? Why do you think approval for a group like Black Lives Matter plummeted so much? It's not just the racial aspect of it, though that's part of it. What was the core message if you really got to the heart of Black Lives Matter? Hey, sometimes they're corrupt cops and we think they should be held accountable. Everyone agrees with that, regardless of your skin color. Heck, even cops agree with that. But they had to make it hyperbolic and they had to make it about race. Then what did they do? Still, people were like, I don't know the average person. So what do? You block the highway so they can't get to their jobs. Do you think then the person who was late to their job that day and had to explain it to their boss, do you think they're like, oh, but those Black Lives Matter people have a good point? Or the climate change activists that do it? Or do you think when Antifa's beating people with bike locks, that the people there were like, well, I was undecided, but these Antifa people make a good point? It doesn't matter if you're right and you're on the factual and the morally just side of the argument. If you give the propagandists ammo to paint you as violent or extreme, people in the middle of the country will start to believe that. So the way to go about it is to do like we're doing. Run for office. Talk to your friends. Be who you are. Be authentic. But show the world. Show those people. It's not just your words. It's your actions. We're the people that have fun. We're the people that aren't going to bed screaming at the sky like the anti-Trump people. We're the people that encourage even those that disagree with us to, come on my channel, disagree with me. Come to our campus, disagree with us. We encourage that First Amendment dialogue. That's who we are, and we're winning. Now, does that mean we'll ultimately win? I don't know. I'm not prophetic, but I know in my heart this is the best way forward right now. And I not only find it morally incorrect to advocate for violence or situations that make violence inevitable, but I also think even if you say, no, morally it's justified, I believe it is a strategic mistake for the reasons that I've outlined. So, now, I could be wrong, but you will not hear me endorse violence. I think that what they did in Virginia was, I was so happy with what I saw there. And American Joe and Doug Ducote were a huge part of that, and Dustin Gold. As was Michael from the Patriot Hour. A bunch of his supporters and friends were down there. I'm very proud to be associated with people like that went down, that were civil, that were intelligent, defending their rights, that helped clean up the area, that treated law enforcement with respect. I'm very proud of that. And I think they should be proud of themselves as well. So, does anyone disagree with me? Is there anyone that thinks, no, it's time to storm the Capitol buildings with guns? I think it's a big mistake. And I think, celebrate your victories. Understand when you're achieving things. We are. We definitely are. But also be ever vigilant and don't get overconfident, which is something I'm telling Trump supporters all the time. Iron Queen, you and this curtain criticism. I need a feng shui master to come in here and do things up, I've listened to, it's definitely a divide and conquer strategy. So, yeah, Alan, is it getting to that point, though? Look at it this way. the more they start to lose, the more extremist measures the establishment will enact, right? Got to censor people from YouTube. Got to get fake news off Facebook. Got to get fake news off Twitter. Have to have hearings on the Capitol building about 12 Russian trolls using Pokemon Go. Have to push these lies for 3 years that Trump was a Russian asset. Have to enact red flag laws. Have to have third trimester abortion laws, right? All of this stuff. The average people are getting a gut feel. I'm telling you. I talk to people that tell me that for years, when I would be working as a bartender or things like that, would tell me, shut up, I don't want to hear you ramble about politics. I run into them now and they're like, can you believe how insane these Democrats are? Can you believe it? I'm going to vote for the first time this year. I hear that a lot. Now, that's anecdotal. The more they lose, the more they must tighten their grip. So we shouldn't do them the favor of tightening our grip in ways, extremist ways as well. We laugh at them. Look at Gandhi, for example, right? He talked about this. The more that his protest went on, by the way, I don't necessarily totally agree with Gandhi, but he understood that the more that his protest was successful, the more extreme the government became against him. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not fully endorsing what Gandhi did. It's the same way. They're getting desperate. And they know it. They absolutely know it. That's why they have to shut us up. But it's not working. Again, this sounds like a little thing, but never underestimate all of the institutions that the establishment controls and how effective they are. The entertainment industry is one of those. Oscar ratings, all-time low last night. Why? Like I said, there were articles being written. The age of the celebrity is over. Why? People are tired of it. They just don't care. They're tired of fake, immoral people grandstanding and lecturing average people that are just trying to work a 9 to 5, that are basically, many of them, living paycheck to paycheck. And these wealthy people are saying, we're morally superior to you. We know what we're talking about. And people, the average person's like, I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of it. I graduated high school in 2002. Back then, believe it or not, the narrative was, you got to go to college to be a success. In rural Pennsylvania, that was it. Got to graduate high school, got to go to college. Now, I talk to people that would have said that to me in 2002 that are telling their kids or grandkids or nephews, hey, don't go to college, it's a waste. Unless you really have something that you know what you want to do. Why has that narrative changed? Because we understand academia is a joke. Just like Hollywood, they claim to care about the poor people. They claim to care about average people that just want to get educated. Yet they raise their tuition through the roof. They indoctrinate people. They refuse to allow free speeches. It used to be universities were bastions of free speeches. Now it's the bastion of censorship. And the average person's waking up. By the way, kudos to Trump saying at the State of the Union that we're going to start pushing bills for vocational studies. Exactly what our country needs. Start teaching young people how to work with their hands, how to do jobs that mean something, that benefit the country, that they don't have to go into crippling debt in order to get educated to do. Heck, you can even get apprenticeships where you could get paid while you're being educated. Look at Silicon Valley. Yes, they still have control. But everybody knows. All of your family and friends, I guarantee it, they know Twitter censors conservatives. They know Twitter censors everyone who's anti-establishment. They know YouTube does the same. They know Google does it. Never forget, Robert Epstein, a professor, testified in front of Congress. Google has the potential to swing 15 to 22 million votes in this upcoming election. Why are they focusing? Why is it so adamant that Google does things like this? Because they know, the establishment knows, the battle is information. That's how we win. We fight back on those lines, the information. It also means that you elect people that are competent to fight back, which is why I'll be running in 2022. Have you seen many of our Republican House members discuss social media? They have no idea what they're talking about. They still think, I hear this. I'm constantly talking to Republican people. What can I do to help Trump? What can I do to help the Republicans in Pennsylvania in 2020? Oh, do you want to hang up yard signs? I mean, yeah, I will, but that's it? That's what you got? I hope I'm doing better on my channel than just putting up yard signs. By the way, sorry I'm missing a lot of the chat here. I'm ranting, as I'm known to do. But, so that's what I mean about winning the information battle. Now, American Joe's totally right in this sense. Are we winning? Because those other groups, the establishment still controls. They still control the media. They still control academia. They still control Silicon Valley. They still control the entertainment industry. But we're making inroads. Like the mainstream media, they're more hated than even Congress, which is unbelievable. So we're making those inroads. Them using their authority to silence us will backfire. The tighter they squeeze, the more we seep through the cracks. And yeah, I kid you not. I just reached a plateau. So my first goal I achieved thanks to American Joe and them like 3-4 weeks ago. I thought I got 1,000 subscribers. I thought that would let me mobile live stream, but it didn't. I also needed to have 4,000 hours, which as of last night I've achieved. I've had 4,000 hours watched. So thank you for everyone for that. It means a lot. So now I have to go through submitting to be monetized so I can have super chats and things like that so I can mobile live stream. I'm not here to talk about that necessarily, but I have 1,400 subscribers and some odd change. For the first time this week, I've seen every day I'm losing 3-4 subscribers. Now, maybe I suck. Maybe that's what's going on. But I tend to doubt it. I mean, I think of the channels I subscribe to. Even if I stop watching a channel, I usually don't unsubscribe. And I don't feel that I've said anything that, the people that have met me on my audience would. So what is it? Even some low-level guy like me, though I am the best content creator online. The James Brown of fat, bearded guys putting out internet content. Hardest working guy. So, yeah, it's happening. But even if they take me down, people are waking up. People understand. By the way, if you're concerned about that type of censorship, click on my description. You can follow me on other platforms. Periscope, Twitter, DLive, Twitch. So I'm trying to diversify where I'm at. Was it the weird video games, Chris? It's funny. I got a handful of people, Preacher and Big Sky Crypto, well into the video game stuff. Some people didn't like it. Yeah, so the other night I did some video game stuff with my family, and it was one of these games where you could play on your cell phone even if you weren't at my house. So I had a lot of my followers were playing along with me. Then I fell asleep at the end of the live stream. Maybe had one too many six-packs. So, yeah, Big Sky liked it. So there, Chris. They don't like bagels. Yeah, so if you're here, make sure that you're still subbed. Unsub and resub or whatever. So, it was not for Asians. Is that the rapping robots wasn't for Asians? So, it was not Clash of Clans. It was Jackbox TV games. So the game was like rapping and fibbage, quiplash, stuff like that. So, yeah, I thought it was fun. We'll do it again some other time. My plan is ultimately to start a secondary channel that's totally non-politics stuff. That way, those of you that are just interested in me talking about politics or culture, philosophy, you don't have to watch me doing stuff. But let me just say real quick to defend myself on that. Look, we talk about heavy issues. And if you've watched my channel, maybe you're new tonight, I get to ranting. I get to screaming sometimes. I like to remind people once in a while of this. I'm one of the happiest people you'll ever meet. I have a great wife. I have a great family. I have great friends. I have friends that are left-wing. I have friends that are right-wing. This is cathartic for me. I get this stuff off my chest that's boiling in me. I'm so happy. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I don't care. I think that I'm genuinely, people that know me, I think would say I'm one of the happiest people they probably ever met. I really feel that way. So, don't leave stuff get you down. We're in the battle. It's heavy issues, but it's important to have a personal life. It's important not to just get mired down. You don't want to be the lady screaming at the sky when Trump won. You don't want to be them. So, yeah, play games here and there, have fun with the family. I had people in the room with me that a couple were Democrats, but the ones that were making fun of Trump were Republicans because the joke to them was, we'll get Rob's followers mad at him by having anti-Trump stuff on this game. So that's what was going on. So, Yeah, I had fun. Maybe something we'll do again. I put my Discord channel. I'll put it up again. If you guys want to follow me on Discord. For those of you who might not know, Discord's just like this server that hosts basically chat rooms. But this Discord's mine, so I'll be in charge of the chat room. Which just means you're not going to get kicked off like on Reddit. You can say whatever you want on there. And as long as I'm okay with it, it'll be okay. Which I got to tell you, unless you're threatening people, I'm okay with it. You could be on there all day saying Rob's a big fat slob but doesn't know what he's talking about. And I would say, well, couldn't you come up with some more original insults? But yeah, if you, and for the community to talk to each other, that's something they could do. Oh, thank you, William Delblanc. Maybe I am the new Rush. I don't think I'm... One of the things Rush has that I don't have is he's been in the game so long. Even when he started, he was in the game that he could remember like specific laws and the way people voted. I don't have that knowledge base yet, but I'm getting there. You know, understood. You know, I don't want to brag about myself, but I kind of do. When I ran for Congress, I thought that I was the best qualified to win out of the 24 people that I ran against. I work 80-something hours a week. And I have a family. And I still do this content. And I was still running for Congress. So imagine if I could do it full time. Maybe I would have a better knowledge base. Because it's hard to read all of this information material, plus have a family life, plus have a work life. You know, it gets tough. But I do it not because I'm a great person or I'm really smart. It's because I love doing it. I have fun doing it. So, but yeah, I do have a passion for it. So thank you. Yeah, Rush was a pioneer. And like I said, he's one of my biggest inspirations. Even if I don't agree with him on everything, it's a guy and a mic talking for hours. That's what I do. Thank you, Preacher. Yeah, and I'm going to keep plugging away one way or another. So, all right. Next topic. So the picture panel, we were talking about immigration. So I figure I might as well go there. Sanctuary cities and things like that. So the point that I was making first off is I'm a big fan of federalism. If you don't know, the idea for the Founding Father, just trying to take yourself back to the founding of our country. So understand, before we had a constitution, we had what was called the Articles of Confederation. And it was more of a loose document. And what ended up happening was you had a bunch of clashes between the states. So maybe Pennsylvania and New York, they were both printing their own money and they would, inflate currencies. And there was questions of who was allowed in which state and what kind of commerce was allowed, things like that. So the Founding Fathers quickly realized we needed a strong federal government. But they understood that they wanted that strength to be as limited as necessary. And to basically give... The idea of a federalist government and the way the Founding Fathers set us up is your local government, your town government should actually have more influence over your life than the state government. And the state government should have more influence than the federal government. That's why they specifically said in the 10th Amendment, anything not outlined specifically in the Constitution is up to the states. All sorts of things, regardless if you agree with them or not. Abortion should be up to the states. Marijuana, drug laws should be up to the states, right? Constitution say anything about weed? No. Okay, it should be up to the states. Constitution say anything about abortion? No, it should be up to the states. If you don't like that, there's a process for that. That's the amendment process. So we could have an amendment that says weed is legal or weed is illegal or abortion is limited in such way or abortion is not limited. That's what the amendment process is for. But until then, if we follow the Constitution, it should be up to the states. And states' rights, to me, are a very important issue. Now, the left, the establishment left particularly, has historically been completely against state rights. They want a massive federal government. Just look at the Green New Deal. Look at the New Way Forward Act. Look at Bernie Sanders. Look at AOC. That's what they want, a massively powerful centralized government. I think that's an anathema to the entire foundation of our country. The idea of this country, and the reason it's the greatest in the history of the world, is that it focused on the individual. It didn't say we have this upper class, we have a monarch, a king that makes decisions. It didn't say the wealthy. It didn't say as a group we make decisions. It said you as the individual. Personal liberty, and, this is the part people want to forget, personal responsibility. That's what this country is founded on. Sure, there are hiccups, no doubt. But that's why it was and continues to be the greatest country in the world. Because it centralized that focus on the individual. Liberty, freedom, personal responsibility. A massive centralized government is the opposite of that. Why do you think, listen to Bernie, listen to the socialists talk, right? Their arguments are always the average person doesn't know what's good for them, so we need to step in and provide for them. You can't be trusted to get your own independent healthcare. We need to take away your right to have private healthcare and make sure that you get it directly from the government. And so forth. That's against the idea of personal freedom. Now, it's complicated. I'm not a complete 100% we should have no social programs, or there should be no taxes, or we should be anarchists. I'm not saying that. There's complicated and room for nuanced discussion. But in general, that's the idea. Right? So, I believe in states' rights, like federalism. Ironically, the one issue that the establishment left is against state rights is for states' rights. I'm sorry, I have that backwards. The one time they are for state rights to go against the federal government, like the one time, is immigration. Now, the Constitution is very clear, and it just makes sense intuitively, right? So put yourself, like I said, let's travel back in time. So you got all these states. Remember, you weren't an American, you were a Pennsylvanian, you were a Kentuckian, you were a New Yorker. People identified more with their state than the country back then. So there were certain things that were problematic. Who each state allowed into their state? Who was printing and coining money? The states all printing and coining their own money. So the Constitution is very clear on some of these powers. National defense, that's the federal government. Foreign policy, that's the federal government. Power to print and coin money, that's the federal government. So states can't print or coin their own money. Now, that's a whole nother video. We've given up that power. Now the Federal Reserve creates money, which is not a governmental entity, which I can talk for hours on, but we'll leave it alone there. And then what's one of the other things? Our borders. Who's allowed into the country and not? That's the role of the federal government. So ironically, when we have the Constitution specifically saying, here is what the federal government should do, and all other powers should be left to the state, the establishment and the left, they say, oh, no, screw that, screw states' rights, we want a big centralized government. Except on the one of the issues where the Constitution is clear that it should be a federal issue, immigration, now they say, oh, it should be up to the states, it should be up to the cities. So that's the point I was trying to make, just to elaborate on that a little. And it makes no sense. Picture it. Like, picture Pennsylvania would be like, let's say back in the day, right? We got the 13 states, the original. And we end up going to war with Britain. And so you can't allow people from Britain, etc. There's certain restrictions you put on because we're in a country we're literally at war with. Picture that Pennsylvania's like, well, we're not at war with Britain. And in fact, we'll allow any British people or British military to come right into Pennsylvania. You're allowed to come right into Pennsylvania. Come on in. Would that make any sense whatsoever? Of course not. You no longer have a country then. Well, that's exactly what we see the establishment and the leadership of the Democrats doing. They say, look at the New Way Forward bill. They say even people that have been deported on felonies should be welcomed back. And it's always important, don't look at these issues in a vacuum. Don't just look at it as an individual. Think of what you're told by the establishment and the massive federal government. I talk about this all the time. We have to give up our Fourth Amendment rights to privacy through things like the Patriot Act, through things like the NSA, through things like when we get in an airport, you have to get felled up, right? All of this is in the name of fighting Islamic extremism or potential foreign terrorism. So on one hand, we have to give up these rights, which we should fight to get these rights back. But on the other hand, we could just have an open border. This makes no sense. It's the same way with gun laws, by the way. I think the stat I was citing was the most recent numbers I could find were from 2017 from the Government Accountability Office, and it shows that roughly 130,000 times it was reported to the ATF and the FBI that felons tried to illegally buy guns in 2017. You know how many times our federal government prosecuted them? 4 of 130,000. Yet, the federal government and all these people that want bigger government continue to push new gun restrictions and new gun laws. In other words, the law-abiding gun citizen, they're saying, no, less rights for you, less rights for you, less rights for you. But the criminal, they say, oh, by all means, we won't enforce these laws. It's the same with the legal immigration. So now they're snooping on you, they're reading your emails, they're feeling you up at the airport. But if Al-Qaeda or ISIS wants to send someone through the southern border, we shouldn't even have the right to detain them. Does this make any sense to you? So I'm totally for, again, lip service until something's done, but they should go after and sue sanctuary cities. And they should put their foot down, and they should end federal funding to them. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. So, thank you, Chris. Let's see if I missed anything. Right, I'm with you, preacher. I say it all the time. Look, I make overtures to my left-wing friends, and I have a lot of them, believe it or not. I have a lot of left-wing friends. Not by our words, but by our actions. We judge people by the content of their character. We're willing to have disagreements with people. We're willing to have discussions with people. We're the people that could have fun. We could joke. I tell the Republicans this all the time. I say, how are you reaching out to new demographics? Young people, for example. What is the Republican Party doing to reach out to young people? They should put me in charge. I'm still borderline young, 35. You know how I reach out to young people? Two things. One, it sounds promising. We understand. First off, we understand you're in a crappy situation. We don't make fun of young people. It's okay to tell jokes. I get it. But as a movement, right, we legitimately understand young people have reason to be upset. The massive federal debt that's going to be foisted on their shoulders. They've been lied to and indoctrinated through our academic system. They're then told they have to go to university where they get in perpetual indentured servitude with student loans they take out. Now, they should have personal responsibility. They're the ones who made that decision, so they have to take responsibility for it. But you can understand being upset. So what are the two arguments we should be making to reach out to young people? The first two. There's obviously many. One, all of these things sound promising when Bernie Sanders and the left and the socialists are saying, free this, free that. We're looking out for young people. But that's going to massively explode the federal debt. Who's going to pay that money back? It's not going to be Bernie. You know, I don't wish death on anyone, but, you know, Bernie's an older gentleman. He's not going to be around when the bill comes due. It's going to be you. It's going to be you and your children, young people. That's who's going to have to suffer. And I criticize Trump for the debt spending as well. It's not good. Think of it like a credit card. Let's say you earned $10,000 this year, just a round number. But you wanted to go on vacation after you spent your $10,000, so you took out $5,000 of credit. Now, let's leave interest rates aside for a second and just say, okay, now the next year, you make $10,000. The only way to break even that next year is you can only spend $5,000, and then you have to pay the $5,000 back that you spent the year before but didn't have. It's real simple. Then you factor in interest rates and things get even worse. That money will come due eventually. It will. It's not just magical. The collections will come in. It'll devalue the currency to the point where your money in the future, your grandchildren's money, will be worthless. That's what's going to happen. It'll be young people that get screwed over by these policies. Meanwhile, you think, oh yeah, but I got an education for free. Well, if everyone's allowed to get a free education, one, the indoctrination will continue. Second, the prices won't go down. You think colleges are going to charge less when the federal government's paying the bill? Of course not. Prices will go through the roof. And third, your college degree is now the same as your high school degree would be now. You can't get a job with just a high school degree, basically. Now you can, if you know what you're doing. But everybody has a high school degree. So now you have to separate yourself. So you go to college. If everybody goes to college, it'll just be like 4 more years of high school. Then you'll have to go to graduate school to separate yourself. So that's argument one you can make to young people. The second argument is the better argument. We have fun. Right? I'm having fun. I hope you all are having fun. Which group, which party is going to ruin your life because you told a bad joke when you were 14? Is that us? Which party's going to scan through your yearbook to make sure you didn't say anything offensive? Now, I don't know about you. I'm a little immature anyways, so I still say things that would be offensive and whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not. I don't have a bigoted racial animus bone in my body. The people that know me know that. I like everyone. But I still say offensive things. It happens. I'm not going to judge other people for that. I've defended Kathy Griffin. I defended Joy Reid. I defended Al Franken. These are people on the left that have done things in a jokey manner. I say, hey, it's a joke. No big deal. That's not who I am. That's not who the group I'm associating with is. We're not trying to ruin your life because of a joke. I don't know if you knew this, but most young people do dumb things once in a while. I'm not trying to ruin someone's life because they told an insensitive joke or did something that was kind of crappy when they were 15, 16. Look at the left. I mean, for God's sakes, the guy, Kyler Murray, that won the Heisman there a couple years ago. And I tell this story a lot. I don't care if you like football or not. That's irrelevant. If you win the Heisman Trophy, you are the premier college football player in the country. It's an incredible achievement. Think about what that means. At the top levels of athletics, even in college, people are pretty close when it comes to physical gifts. So you have to separate yourself. You have to push yourself. You have to work every night. You know, when you were in high school and people like me were out, partying it up, these people were in the weight room. They're in the playbook. They're practicing. They're throwing the ball. So you do that for how many years? And then you reach the pinnacle. You're the Heisman Trophy winner. That's an incredible story. You know what the story became? Kyler Murray had a tweet once that used and I'm going to say this, used the word faggot. And so he was tore down by the left for that. How dare he as a 15-year-old? So if you're young out there, that's who they are. That's what you're voting for. As long as you stay on their plantation, you're safe. But if you ever say anything that even just accidentally, it just slips out or you didn't know it was offensive and they decide to come after you, your life is over. You're young. You have your whole life to live. Is that how you want to live? Walking on eggshells, not having fun, constantly scowling, constantly looking to see who you could out? They did something offensive. They did something offensive. I'm the most angry. I'm the biggest victim. Is that what you want as a young person? I don't think so. Thank you. Patriot Hour is fantastic. Thank you, Renee. Right. Hail Odin. We shouldn't be sending tax money to these schools anymore. I understand K through 12 is different, but the universities, the indoctrination is disgusting. People aren't learning what they should. So back on illegal immigration, I don't have the audio pulled up, which I regret because this is kind of an impromptu show, but this, you can check this out. You can probably Google it and find it, or DuckDuckGo. I'd prefer. Try not to use Google if you can. You had this woman go to this Bernie rally, and she was actually sounded quite reasonable. Understand, there are significant people out there that'll go to a rally, and they're on the fence. They're there because they want to hear what the candidate has, whether it be Trump, whether it be Bernie. Not everyone's just I support you no matter what. Some people are there to learn and decide who they're going to vote for. This woman was one of those. She starts off saying, "Hey, Bernie, you seem like a very authentic person. I think what Elizabeth Warren said about you, saying that you said women couldn't win, is a lie and disgusting." Crowd all cheers because they're all Bernie supporters. She says, "And I think you're authentic, but some of the things you haven't been consistent on, and one of them is illegal immigration." And she says, "You said 4 or 5 years ago that open borders and illegal immigration was a huge problem because it depressed wages for the poorest of Americans. That would seem to be an issue that as someone who's running on help the poor, help the poor, help the poor, that you would, right? Yes, illegal immigration hurts that. So why have you changed your stance?" And Bernie, of course, doesn't answer the question. He says, "I'm not," let's see if I can do it. My voice is good. "I'm not for open borders. I think the 1% must pay their fair share, and we are not for open borders. We need to help the poor people out. There are dreamers that are here that did nothing wrong." Right? Okay, that's what he says. But that's not an answer to our question. Why did you change your mind about illegal immigration? And then he says, and this is what's telling, and this is what I wanted to talk about here. He says, if we deported these illegals, the economy would harm. Do you know how much your produce would cost if we deported these illegals that are the ones picking fruit? Now, if you've watched my show for a while, you know that this is an argument that I despise. To me, this is the same. Thanks. I could do better if my voice wasn't screwed up. By the way, Dustin Gold that was on the Patriot Hour, he does an awesome Bernie. Good night, DM DeMond. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. That argument to me is basically the argument for slavery. And here's what it is. if you really listen to these people, they'll tell you who they are. Like I said in the Patriot panel tonight. Remember when Alyssa Milano said, well, we can't deport illegals. Who will clean my toilets? Who will mow my yards? Yes, exactly. Right? Who's the bigot again? I need illegals so that I have maids and I have janitors. That's what's important to me. Us plebes that work 9 to 5s and we clean our own toilets and we make our own food. Who cares what we think, right? So think about this. Break down Bernie's argument here. I want you to break it down, okay? So just follow me on this journey. Bernie's making two arguments, and this is what these people, the illegal immigration defenders, they always make the same two arguments. One is, it is our moral responsibility to accept anyone in. Okay? That's one. So it's a morality argument, which I hate these morality arguments. The second argument is, and by the way, they help our economy because they do work that Americans won't do. Okay, so let's take argument 2 there for a second. So the argument, the reason that this plays out something like this, it's not that Americans are unwilling, let's say picking apples. It's not that an American's unwilling to pick an apple. It's that they're unwilling to pick an apple if what they get for their labor isn't what they feel of the correct value. Now, there's all sorts of reasons why this may be the case. So let's say that we live in a country where it's easy to get disability or welfare benefits. Do you want to be out in the sun in 90-degree heat for 8 hours a day picking produce for the exact same amount you could get from sitting at home and playing PlayStation? Well, no. So then it doesn't seem to be a problem if Americans are unwilling to do it. It's that Americans have a better option. So one of the things we could do is take away that option. Stop incentivizing people to not work. If you couldn't afford a roof over your head or you couldn't afford food, then you would probably be willing to work doing something like picking produce. But it's even more than that. What are the wages that are being paid by these illegals that are working on these farms? $2, $3 an hour at some point? Now, I don't blame the illegal. That's still money that you're sending back home, whatever. But the law is the law, and there's a reason that we have these laws. So this isn't crapping on the illegal, it's crapping on the business owner that's paying them $2, $3 an hour. So what Bernie is really saying is, I enjoy my avocado toast at the price that I can afford it. It would be inconvenient of me if I have to pay more for my oranges or bananas or apples. So I would like to live comfortably off the labor of these people we're exploiting. But it's okay to exploit them because they were being even more exploited in their home country. Does that argument sound familiar? Let me slightly tweak the argument. Hey, listen, don't you like your cheap cotton-based products? Hey, these slaves that are working here, they allow the economy to flourish. And we give them shelter, we give them 3 square meals. They had it worse in the countries they came from. So we're actually helping them. They were exploited more in their home country, so it helps the economy. We bring in the slaves, we give them shelter, we give them meals. It's great. We're doing a great thing with slavery. Do you see how disgusting that sounds? So why is it different with the illegal immigration argument? Now, I've made this argument to these people, and this is what they'll say. Oh, no, you misunderstood me. I want the illegal immigrants to come, but I think we should pay them a living wage. So we should actually pay them more. And what's a living wage? Well, what's Bernie say? $15 an hour, $20 an hour, right? That's what he says should be the minimum living wage. That's what Bernie says, right? So now he says, okay, bring in the illegals because they do jobs that Americans are unwilling to do because the jobs don't pay enough. But we should then pay the illegals $15, $20 an hour. Wait a minute, didn't you just say if employers that own these farms were forced to pay living wages that Americans would be willing to accept, that all the country, the economy would collapse. People wouldn't be able to afford produce at the supermarket. Do you see how these arguments contradict? So if your argument is, on one hand, we need people picking fruit at $2 an hour, or the economy will be severely diminished. But on the other hand, we should bring in these illegals and pay them $15 an hour. Well, then you just admitted you're collapsing the economy. So how about we just take the illegals out of the equation and stop like with these disastrous programs that incentivize Americans not working, and force these farms to compete in a fair marketplace where they have to pay what the labor would really be worth if it wasn't suppressed by illegal immigration. And yes, that might mean the price of our produce goes up slightly, but it also means that money's being distributed to people that are now working, that are being productive instead of living off welfare or something like that. Thank you, 223. I tried to do a good Bernie. Right, Lewis Sharp. And there's so much stupidity, right? One of the arguments here for illegal immigration is you hear this more in the UK and in the European Union, but you're starting to hear it here. Sorry. Low birth rates. So we have the baby boomers. They're becoming an aging population, and we don't have enough young people to support the aging population that's now retired. So we need to import workers. I don't know if you knew this, but the people we import, this might be a big secret, they get old too. So then who's going to support them? Well, now we need to bring in even more immigrants to support them. Do you see how stupid this is? Well, and done playing around. Yeah, you're absolutely right? So then there are illegal immigrants that are taking actually higher paid jobs. But they're probably getting paid less than what an American would in that same job. And the reason is because who are they going to complain to, right? So it's definitely, there's a lot of ins and outs. There definitely is. But is it fair to that construction crew? Why is the construction crew hiring illegals? Business owners are going to make decisions that make them the most profitable. So they know that there is some financial incentive to hire illegals. That allows artificial influence into the market. So if you're a construction guy and you're doing everything right by the laws that the people we voted for passed, you're now in an economic disadvantage because you have to provide all these benefits and the wages that the government says is appropriate, at least at the minimum, to actual American citizens. But your competitor that's hiring the illegals, even if those illegals are making money hand over foot, they're still making less and they're not under this government scrutiny. So that provides artificial competition incentive to hire the illegals. Right, and then think about it. And this is one of the things I try to do in this channel. We should try to be reaching out not just to the people that agree with us, but people that maybe tend to disagree as well. So, for example, we need to talk about how illegal immigration hurts groups that traditionally vote Democrat. So, illegal immigrants tend to move to areas that just happen to be inner cities, which puts them in direct competition with low-skilled labor in the black community, inner city black communities, which therefore drives down wages in the black community, which means they're less likely to be able to get jobs where they can support a family, which occurs generationally. So if you're black, one of the biggest threats to the average person in an inner city community is illegal immigration taking jobs and driving down wages. It's just the truth. If you're a legal immigrant, let me say that so you understand, not illegal, but legal. If you are a legal immigrant, oftentimes you are directing competition with illegal immigrants. You spent 5-6 years doing everything the right way, taking a naturalization test, spending money to get here, bringing your family here. You get into the labor market. Now you're in direct competition with people that skipped ahead of the line. That's why you're starting to see Hispanic numbers, for example, for Trump, 30-40%. We need to be talking to these communities saying, no, this illegal immigration is bad for you too. How about the illegal immigrants themselves? Amnesty International, or the Red Cross, one of these organizations, not a right-wing organization, said that as many as 60% of women trying to make the crossing are sexually assaulted in some way. It's perilous just for, exposure, disease, illness, requires a lot of energy, and that's just the natural elements. Then you factor in the people that are smuggling you are criminals, drug cartels, they're sexually abusing a lot of the women, children are being sold child trafficking, things like that. Meanwhile, the Democrats know, the people that are pushing this in the Democratic Party know that our official laws still say that these people can't come in. So the laws haven't changed. Yet they are virtue signaling to illegals all around the world, yes, come here. So by that virtue signaling, we're actually seeing more women sexually assaulted, more children sold into child trafficking, etc. So if you really cared about the illegals, you would stop sending that signal. That's something the Republicans need to do better. It's not just enough to talk to the base. You need to be able to talk to people from all sorts of stretches, even that traditionally wouldn't agree with you. I thought Trump, in the last State of the Union, did a fantastic job talking about his appreciation for legal immigrants. And I feel the same way. If you're a legal immigrant, now I think we take too many legal immigrants. But if you're here and you came here legally, you are as much of an American as me, period. You are. That's what our laws say. That's how I feel. I don't care what country you came from. And many of the legal immigrants I've met are some of the most fantastic people you'll ever meet. They fought and clawed to come here, and it took them years because they love the idea of freedom. They love the idea of the United States. I know legal immigrants that are working 16, 18 hours a day. They know more about American history than me in many cases because they were deprived of that sort of freedom. And so they were thirsty to get it and come here. Compare that to illegal immigration, burning the American flag, flying the Mexican flag or the Guatemalan flag or whatever. Do you see the complete difference? And yeah, I mean, who said that? Jeremy. Ask yourself, how far does this moral obligation go? I say this all the time. Let's assume you're right? Let's say whatever your argument is in the establishment or the left or whatever, anyone, even on the right, you're making an argument that we need to change something or it's a moral argument. And I say, okay, how much is enough then? Give me a figure. For example, reparations. What is the dollar amount that we could finally say, if this dollar amount was paid to the descendants of slaves, finally then we could say it's over. It's not slavery's fault anymore. Because that's what they say. Oh, problems in the inner city black community. It's all about slavery. It's all about racism. We need reparations. So what would the dollar, just give me it. 10 million? Or I'm sorry, 10 trillion? 100 trillion? Give me the dollar amount. What is the final amount where you'd say, finally, if that amount of money was invested, this would be enough to end the legacy of slavery? And I'll guarantee you, whatever that number is, no matter how insane and imaginary it is, the day we gave that money, the next day when there was a shooting in the inner city, there would be people saying, oh, that's because slavery, racism. Nothing would change. They'd still play the victimhood card. And by that, I don't mean inner city people. I mean the predominantly wealthy white people that speak in the name of black people all the time, that say we need to give reparations. But certainly there are black people that say that as well. It's the same with illegal immigration. Now, any elementary school student can tell you, here's a jar, right? We're going to put marbles in the jar. I saw a video where a guy does M&Ms talking about population. At some point, the jar overfills. The country's the same way. We have limited resources. Just space alone. We have limited space. There are over 6 billion people in the world. The United States has, 300 million? How many people can we import? Where's the cutoff? When can we say, at what point can we say our moral obligation to take in the world's poor is now outweighed by the fact that it is detrimental to bring more in because the resources are so scarce? Do you see what I mean? At some point, the poor illegal would be better off at home than coming into the United States. If 3 billion people come here, then we'll all be poor. So when does the moral obligation end? Give me the number. Can we take 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion? When is the number where we can finally say, okay, we've met our moral obligation, we're filled up now? And whatever that number is, let's say it's 4 billion people. So now there are 4 billion people shoulder to shoulder in the United States. We're all living in crippling poverty. We're all starving to death. Disease is running rampant. The entire rest of the world now only has 2 billion people in it, right? But finally, we've met our moral obligation, says these people on the left. The day after that, the day after we had 4 billion people here, and someone strolled up to the border and was like, I'd like to come in too, I guarantee the left would be like, oh, it'd be immoral not to take that guy. So nothing changes. Now we can understand that this is not living in reality. You can't do that. I mean, Tucker Carlson got crap because he was talking about New Mexico and how when illegals are coming through, we have national parks in New Mexico that when the coyotes are bringing illegals through, they're devastating these national parks. And he talks about how environmentalists back in the day, left-wing environmentalists were hugely anti-illegal immigration because they understand poor populations, particularly illegal populations, if you're poor, you're harder on resources. And it makes sense, right? This is an argument that's difficult for people to understand. Just look at it at this level. If you're struggling to eat and to feed your family, how environmentally conscious are you? Now, if you're wealthy, you could say, you know what? I think that deer should have rights. I don't think that we should be out hunting that deer. But that doesn't matter to you because you have a full plate every night. But the person that's struggling to eat, they're going to shoot that deer if they get the chance. And you can hardly blame them. They're going to be harder on flora and fauna, so the wildlife plus the vegetation. When it comes to energy, poor people tend to use dirtier energy. And it makes sense because the dirtier energy is cheap. That's why India is reliant on coal technology. Not clean coal like we have here, but dirty coal. Because it's the cheapest form of energy. And just that form of energy has massively increased the quality of life in India. Both life expectancy, I think it's gone up like 16 years in the past 20 years. Quality of life, things like that. Just having rudimentary cheap energy. So if we massively bring in people that are reliant on the state and they're poor, they will be harder on our natural resources. Tucker says this, and he's called a racist. Oh, you're saying brown people hurt the environment? No, it has nothing to do with their skin color. It has to do with their situation. Well, right, Jeremy Elliott. They couch their argument in the moral obligation. But in reality, it is a strategic decision. Just like all of this is. Green New Deal. They say it's moral. We have to fight climate change. But really, it's about consolidating power. That's what the illegal immigration is. It's not just the Democrats, though. Don't be mistaken. The Republicans also have done nothing to stop illegal immigration. In fact, probably one of the most significant reasons Trump won was he was the first national politician on both sides that made illegal immigration a centerpiece. And it turns out, despite what the establishment and the Democrats tell you, most people in this country of all colors think illegal immigration is a problem. They don't think it's racist to want it dealt with. We don't know between 11 and 27 million people, illegal immigrants in this country. That's close to maybe 7, 8, 9% of the people in this country could be illegal potentially. That's incredible. So these are all things that we need to focus. It's not racist. It's not, and again, and I say this, and don't be mistaken, I'm massively for stopping illegal immigration. I think it's one of the bigger issues we face. However, having said that, I don't begrudge the illegal immigrant. You're in some crappy country. You're in Guatemala. You want to come to the United States for a better life. Yeah, it sucks you broke the law to get in here, and don't get me wrong, they should be held accountable for that. But whatever, they come here. I'm not saying, oh, you specifically, you individual, that's not the problem. They should have never been allowed to get here in the first place. That's the problem. That's what we voted for. Our government exists to enforce the will of the citizens of this country, not to help the poor people around the world. And I'm sorry, that's life. Your country's just like a big house for all the citizens of this country, right? So look at your house. Maybe you have a wife or a husband or kids. Maybe you live alone. Whatever. I don't know about you. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. Like, the car needs worked on. I'm putting it off, doing all this stuff. I'm trying, though. I'm working 80 hours a week. I am. I know poor people. I know people that are worse off than me. But it would be not only not smart for me to try to give away my wealth to help them, it would be immoral. It would be unfair to my wife. It'd be unfair to my family if I said, we're going to go homeless. We're going to go without food so that I can help this other person. Now, if I have enough to give, I could choose to give. That's my house and helping people in my community, right? Now, take that picture out to the country. Why are we helping poor people around the world when we have poor people in our country? Why are we worried about people's health in other countries when we have people that serve this country that can't get health care? Why are we worried about infrastructure in other countries or, bringing in people when we have bridges and roads falling apart in this country? Once your own house is in order, then you could make the decision to help others. But it is not only not your purpose and not your goal in life and your job in life to help other people at your own detriment, but it is immoral to do so. So that's my feelings on illegal immigration. I think that this couching it in morality, like I said, Bernie outs himself. These people out themselves when they say, oh, it's good for the economy. It's garbage. AOC said the other day, they pay more in taxes than Amazon. It is a problem that corporations find these loopholes. But the loopholes the corporations find, it's to get out of taxes, for example, it's not because our government's not big enough. It is precisely because our government's too big. The smaller the government is, the less of a problem lobbying is. Lobbying is such a big problem because the government's so big and can pick economic winners and losers and can create these bureaucratic Byzantine tax codes where all these loopholes are possible if you just grease the right wheels. That's because the government's too corrupt, has too much power. So saying what we need is more government power. That'll finally force Amazon to pay their taxes. No, it won't. That'll just give Amazon more potential to grease the right wheels, to pay off the right politicians, and continue to not pay their fair share. Or they'll just leave and go to a different country. The tax code should be simplified, and we should have smaller government, not bigger government, to ensure what we need is a small government that enforces the laws on the book, simplified tax codes, and go after the criminals that are corporate or bankers or whatever. Throw them in jail. Again, it's another problem of these establishment people say we need more government power. We need more laws. But they don't enforce the laws already on the books. They're more interested in going after law-abiding people and making your life hell and taking more of your resources and putting more of a burden on you and taking your personal responsibility and freedom away than they are of actually going after the unethical or the criminals in every single way. Let me just give you an example. I don't know how things will be under the USMCA, but under NAFTA. So my father-in-law is a truck driver. This story, I need to have him on. I don't know that he'll be comfortable talking to people, but I often find the people that think that they don't know about politics actually know more than those of us that talk about it a lot. So he's a truck driver, and he was exempt from this, but they recently passed laws that said, you need these like digital trackers in your truck. Digital logs in your truck if your truck's made in a certain year and anything newer. Now his truck is older, so he didn't fall into this. But the idea was, truck drivers, it's dangerous. They're driving too many hours and, they're fudging their mileage sheets. So we'll get a digital tracker in there. Now these digital trackers can govern your speed. They actually could shut down your vehicle if you go over the allotted hours that you're allowed to work. Now this was all supposedly done in the name of, safety, feelings, right? Almost everywhere they've been implemented, guess what's happened? Wrecks have gone up. Job loss. Companies shutting their doors. Less safe driving. Think about it, right? Here's a scenario. Now, your truck's going to shut off in a half an hour because there's a digital device in it that's going to automatically shut it off. But you're not at a truck stop yet. You're 30 miles on the interstate until you can get to the nearest truck stop. So you start hammering down at like 90, 100 degrees. Now, maybe it's snowing and raining real bad. Where you used to pull over for 15, 20 minutes until the road's cleared up, now you have to hammer down and try to get there. That causes an accident. Or you're stuck in traffic. There's an accident. You're on the interstate. I've seen this happen. So you're sitting there idling for 2-3 hours in your semi. Well, what happens? That counts as drive time. Now, all of a sudden, it starts beeping. It's going to shut your truck off. Now you're literally stuck. You can't get around. You can't go anywhere. You're stuck in miles upon miles of traffic, and your truck's shutting down. And that's when they work properly. There's also problems with them malfunctioning and things like that. Now, that's just one of the things that have been implemented. You also have, my father-in-law drives oversized loads. Each state has their own laws. How big does the orange barrier need? What exactly does your barrier need to say? I've actually heard of people getting pulled over because the escort cars have lights that have to spin, and the inside bar of the lights have to spin at a certain revolution, and the outside have to spin at a different revolution. Your pole has to be so high. Depending on what state you are and the size of the thing you're hauling, you need to have 1, 2, maybe 3 escort cars. You have to be permitted on every road you're on. Most of the people that do the permits have never driven a truck, have never been on these roads. So they end up saying, oh, Interstate 80 is being worked on here. We'll send the oversized load through this little town. But they didn't check that that little town has a bridge that's only 10 feet wide. Now you get there and you're stuck. You can't turn around. You got this big 24 wide foot house on. So now you got to back up 5, 6 miles, which causes stops and traffic wrecks, blah, blah, blah. This is all stuff because of regulations, right? This affects hardworking people that are just trying to provide for their family, not getting extremely rich, right? That's truck drivers. That's part of their story. Now, all of that goes on when you're a truck driver and you're in Pennsylvania, or you're in Ohio, or you're in New York. What if you're in Mexico and you're driving through? None of it applies. All of the regulations on your truck, who cares? You're a Mexican citizen. So now, not only does that mean the potential for the people that have the least safe vehicles and the least safe driving test are held to the least stringent standards, but it actually incentivizes companies to ship out of places like Mexico because their costs are extremely lower because of this. Now, having said that, I still think they have to get the permit to drive through if they're driving an oversized load. But all of the inspections of the vehicles, blah, 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 things like that, most of it they don't have to follow. So we've set up a system where the law-abiding citizen that's just trying to do the right thing is overly encumbered, but the person who's here from a different country is given every incentive. Thank you, David Butcher. I try to be good at analogies. Right, if you live... Now, I'm in Pennsylvania, and I know about this with truck drivers from Mexico. So I can only imagine what it's like in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, right? I mean, it's really crazy. Now, I think there are corrupt people that advocate for more government power, and that's what some of this is. But I believe there are probably people that voted for a lot of this stuff that meant well. Oh, we put these electronic devices in the truck that track everything. That will decrease wrecks. But your feelings don't care about facts. Or facts don't care about your feelings, as Ben Shapiro always says. Which I'm not a big Shapiro fan, but he's right about that. So when you see, hey, guess what? Wrecks have gone up universally when we put these electronic devices in the trucks. But they're fighting tooth and claw to keep the law because the feeling is more important than the actual fact. And meanwhile, the person from another country, I hear truck drivers say it all the time down here. I should move to Mexico and become a Mexican citizen and then just keep driving. It'd be much easier for me. That's funny if that's true. There's John Jacobs. Hey, John, yelling at me last night. Ooh. Here's my Discord channel. Everybody, subscribe to my Discord channel. So, yeah, I've seen that Clearly Clever. That's a classic Cops. The truck driver gets out and he's wearing lingerie. And he's just acting like, So, now there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. Now, this might require me bringing up an article. So you heard this story. This probably ain't going to work. Let me try real quick. Oh, it did. Wow. I'm amazing. Oh, Jeremy Elliott, I'll get to you in a minute. What I disagree with Shapiro. I can talk for hours on that. For those of you who didn't hear, there was a crazed lunatic that tried to run into a Republican Trump-supporting voter registration event. Ran a van, injured 6 people. We're lucky it didn't kill anyone. But a terrorist tried to kill people for political reasons, it seems. Now, we talked about this in the live stream last night briefly. Imagine if this was the other way around. If this was a Republican, a Trump supporter trying to run into a Democratic registration with this vehicle. It would have been national news all day. So we talked about in the Patriot panel, oh, can you believe this story wasn't news? Well, that's not entirely true. There was some news. So let me show you Politico's spin on this. You see this? Republicans vow revenge at ballot box after volunteers nearly hit by van. I'm not even going to read the article. I'm not even going to dignify it. You see that headline? Not crazed Democrat supporter tries to kill Trump supporters. Oh, those Republicans vowing revenge because someone tried to kill them, so they're going to get out and vote more. If I had my voice, I would be screaming right now. I mean, that's unreal. How can you accept this as a legitimate journalist news site? Now, I know we don't, but we're told all the time, oh, fake news, fake news. Oh, the independent content creators like Rob, don't trust them. They're inspiring people. Never once have I endorsed violence. I condemn it all the time. I spent the first 40 minutes of this show talking about why dialogue, reaching out to people in the middle, that's what we need to do. Yeah, I'm considered dangerous. Well, meanwhile, Politico's making it seem like a bunch of people that were just attempted to be murdered are somehow in the wrong for wanting revenge by voting. That's what we deal with. What's the woman that's running Bernie Sanders' campaign? I can't remember her name. Simone? Is it Simone Sanders? Remember? Never forget, she was on that CNN panel. They show video of this 15-year-old white girl getting beat because she had a Trump hat, getting beat in high school. Then they show another video of a guy wearing a Trump hat getting pulled out of a car and beaten. And she goes, oh, cry me a river, white people being attacked. That's how they feel. The first thing they think of when, oh my God, a bunch of people at a voter registration drive almost were murdered by a lunatic for political reasons. Any normal people, I don't care. If those were Bernie supporters and of Trump, I would say that's terrible. How dare. I would have been on here right now tonight saying, that's disgusting. I can't believe that happened. It doesn't matter how much you dislike the establishment or you dislike Bernie or whatever. This is of the most grotesque, terrorist things you could do. This person should be locked away forever. That's what I would have said. I've done it before. What kind of monster do you have to be like, well, I don't really care about the people that were almost killed, but it could help them politically, and I'm upset about that. And it's not just that. It's that the people at Politico will pretend that they're morally superior to you. This is the way it always works. Yeah, clearly clever. That is the exact... What you would want to seek to avoid is, let's say that the article was something like this. We interviewed the people at that rally and they said, we're going to get vans and drive into their rallies or their registrations. Then you would say, the headline could be, they vow revenge by, and that would be bad. You would say, yes. Vowing revenge by exercising your right as an American to vote? And that's somehow a negative connotation? It fits right in with everything we were talking on the Patriot panel tonight. The Portland situation I talked about in live stream last night with Antifa, where the journalist is getting rushed by all these Antifa members. He runs up to the cops. The cops say, we're not going to help you. I said, imagine if that was the KKK chasing a reporter. The national outrage of the cops are like, hey, you were interrupting that Klan rally. I showed you blue checkmark people that have since blocked me, saying, well, this guy was agitating. He had it coming. I said, would you feel the same way if Jim Acosta agitates Trump crowds? So if the next time CNN has Jim Acosta outside a Trump rally, if all the Trump people start mobbing and beating Jim Acosta, would the left say, well, hey, Jim Acosta was antagonizing them? He says, well, no, because Jim Acosta is a real journalist. Do you see how this is? They always delegitimize and dehumanize you. It's okay to make fun of you. It's okay to make racial slurs of you. It's okay to have political violence against you. All of that's okay. It's okay to spy on Trump with the FBI. It's okay to get dirt on Trump from Russians. It's okay to illegally foreign lobby as long as you're connected to Hillary. It's okay to lie in Congress if you're a Democrat. It's okay to lie to the FBI. It's okay to destroy subpoenaed evidence. Starting to see a theme here? And they say they're morally superior to you, to me. How hard is it to just say, yeah, that's bad? How hard? I could have wrote that political article for him in 5 minutes. Nut job, apparently for political reasons, tries to run a van into Trump registration. Terrible, disgusting thing. Thank God no one was hurt. End of article. But nope, they couldn't do that. They don't come right out and tell you what they think. But if you have an eye towards watching it, you can see. You can see in headlines like that. You can see in the headline. Remember, I did the whole video. I went in the Rob's time capsule about the New York Times writing the puff piece about the Black Hebrew Israelites after the Covington situation. Now, that New York Times piece said, we talked to the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they said that the Black Hebrew Israelites are a hate group, but they've never committed violence. Lie. Beheadings, things of that nature. And here's an expert that says they're not as bad as people wearing MAGA hats. Now, the New York Times didn't come right out and say, we support the Black Hebrew Israelites. Damn right, get those evil whiteys and Jews. They didn't say that. But they did, if you read in between the lines. Well, okay, they're not the greatest people, but, they're not Trump supporters. Those are the real evil people. Right, Lewis, that's exactly right. It's not about Trump. What they did to Trump isn't just about Trump. It's about you and me. What they did to Kavanaugh wasn't just Kavanaugh. That's a roadmap for how they would treat me and you if they have the power. Go back and look at those Project Veritas videos. Bernie supporter after Bernie supporter, campaign worker after campaign worker. Gulags weren't that bad in the Soviet Union. Re-education's because we're going to need to re-educate Trump supporters. Now, is Bernie specifically saying that stuff? I don't think so. I really don't. And I don't like Bernie, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But why is he attracting so many people that believe that? And why is he not condemned it? You can bet your bottom line if someone in Trump's campaign said things like this about Biden supporters, that there'd be 50 microphones in Trump's face the next day saying, what do you think about your crazy supporters? Did you fire that guy yet? But with this Bernie, when their people shoot up Steve Scalise, remember I did this whole thing on this? Gifford gets shot, Congressman Gifford. Bernie Sanders fundraises off of it. He sends out a fundraiser saying, is it even safe to walk down the streets with these Republicans? We need to condemn this violence from the Republicans. That's what he said, right? Blamed Republicans for the violence. Fundraised off of that shooting. Then one of his supporters shoots up Steve Scalise. Did he say, oh, that's Democrats' violence? That's Democrat rhetoric? No. He said, condemn all violence. Then Charlottesville occurs. Trump says, condemn all violence. Did Bernie say, well, yeah, that's what I said when Scalise got shot, so fair enough. No, he said that it was terrible for Trump to say all violence. And he should have talked just about right-wing violence. You see how this works? A nut shoots up a synagogue in Pittsburgh. I live outside of Pittsburgh. Horribly sad, horribly tragic for the city, for the Jewish community there. Despicable. The guy writes in his letter before he shoots how much he hates Trump, that Trump sold out to the Jews. He moved the embassy. The media blames the attack on Trump. They tried to blame Scalise's shooting on Trump. Now we have this situation where the left, the Democrats, endorsed Black Lives Matter, even when they were chanting kill the cops, even after Black Lives Matter guys shot up 5 cops in Dallas, even after Barack Obama then went to the funeral of those officers and lectured the cops on needing to have better race relations, then after there were all sorts of attacks on the police in New York City, then after there was just this weekend a big protest against police where politicians, local politicians were standing side by side with people chanting F all cops and kill cops. Then when cops predictably get shot, who are they going to blame? It's not left-wing rhetoric. They'll say it's Trump. Trump caused division. That's what's causing this. Now, I'm reticent to blame anyone for their rhetoric causing violence. I think we do too much of that. We should focus on the actual violent perpetrator. And you know that I've defended the left, for example, the Steve Scalise shooting. I said every side will have extremist nuts. We should not judge the average person in an ideology or political movement based on what some nut does. But where we can judge them is if they're going to say the rhetoric on the other side, it's what causes all this violence. And then they're out there saying ICE agents are Nazis, kill the police, F the cops, they're all racist, they're shooting unarmed black men. And then ICE agents are being attacked, and then police are being attacked. Now, if you're going to blame rhetoric on the other side, where is that microscope on yourself? And as always, because they control the narrative, they get away with it. The blatant hypocrisy. All right, let's see how many people are saying how awesome I am in the chat. Yeah, I mean, Blazmaten. I don't know who's behind the Vegas shooting. Here's a couple things I do know. I know that according to the official FBI narrative, according to the official DNC and Democrat narrative, according to the mainstream media and the academia and the entertainment industry, I know that their official narrative is that the FBI is so incompetent that handpicked teams at the top of the FBI, the best of the best in the FBI, handpicked 4 separate teams. They didn't know that it's inappropriate to forge evidence to say the opposite of what it says. That was just incompetence. That's the argument. That's the official establishment line. So if they're that dumb, something that an elementary student would know, you find evidence. Little Timmy ate the M&Ms. Well, I'll change the evidence. I'll smear chocolate on Johnny and blame him. Little kids know that's wrong. Our FBI doesn't. The top of our FBI. Oh, we're sorry. We didn't know we weren't supposed to manufacture evidence to blame someone we want and change it to do the total opposite of what the evidence said. We didn't know. Sorry. Just incompetence. Don't worry about it. Then I'm not going to believe anything the FBI says. So I don't believe anything they say about Las Vegas at all. Until I can see proof. Now, I'm not saying the FBI is never right. Maybe they are. But until I see proof from them with my own eyes, I am not taking their word on anything. Because they're corrupt. But even if I believe the official establishment narrative, they're so incompetent, they didn't know that you're not supposed to manufacture evidence to say the opposite of what it does. They just didn't know. So why would I believe their investigative skills in FBI? Why would I believe their investigative skills when it came to who hacked the DNC? And I'll bet your bottom dollar this, if it had been a 50 Cent concert that was shot up, or a Beyonce concert that was shot up, and I'm not even just saying like black or rap, if it had been anything that predominantly left-wing people went to, you know, Shakira or, I don't know. I don't listen to newer music. I bet they would have had an explanation. There'd have been outcries for an explanation. But it was a country music festival. Oh, yeah, I didn't do the coin flip yet. Yeah. So I like the people on the Patriot panel a lot. They're fantastic. Good friends of mine. I'm becoming friends with them. I think they do good work. Most of them have far more subscribers than me. But they are not the best channel on the internet. That is definitively me. So go back and check out a video I did from like last week ago, and you could see that at the Iowa caucus, they decided at one point Klobuchar and Buttigieg tied for these delegates. So they solved it with a coin flip. And the way the gentleman flips the coin is no one looks at the coin, no one checks it afterwards. He flips the coin and then he rotates it. And he's like, oh yeah, heads, Buttigieg wins. Now, one, it might seem insane. Maybe you're not from the United States. It might seem a little crazy to you that we're helping decide the potential president of the United States through a coin flip. But hey, if it's good enough for the Democratic Party, it's good enough for me, right? And second, you mean they're going to allow it to be that corrupt when he can flip the coin? But hey, it must have been on the up and up. It worked out for Buttigieg. Mayor cheat, right? So, in that spirit, once more, as promised, I've been doing this for a week now. I'm going to flip this quarter, heads, tails. Heck, I'll do more than they did at the DNC. I'll show you the coin. And I'm going to flip it. And I'll do it in a very similar way to the DNC did. And we'll see. Heads is that I'm the best content creator online ever. Tails is it's one of the millions of other people. I feel it's about a tie. So let's see what the coin says here. We'll flip it. So. Oh, it's heads. It's heads. The title. Give me the strap. I got to get a belt made. I'll try to get on that like WWE style belt. Best content creator. I mean, who do you know that puts the belt up every night like me? You think Mayweather's going to put the belt up every night? No way. This guy, man, putting the belt up. Still, world's greatest content provider. Bam! Which means by default, you're all the best audience. So, love this Patriot panel, guys, but, you know. Also, in the spirit of the DNC, I've realized that why go through life taking personal responsibility? It's tough, actually looking at your life and say, when I failed, it was my fault. That's stupid. Why don't we take a tack from the DNC and just blame everything on Russia? So, I have 32 people watching right now. I've been losing some subscribers. It's Russia's fault. Russia's keeping me down. It's terrible. My mortgage payments due at the beginning of the month. That's Russia. Russia's forcing me to pay money to live in my home. It's disgusting. I'm pretty sure Russia kicked SJG off our Patriot panel. His power went out, for those of you that were wondering. And it's funny, if you're doing VMix, like that's how we do the video. When your power goes out or you leave, it leaves a picture of you up. So he was like, it just froze like that. Pretty funny. Oh, yeah, that black guy, Tom Steyer, yeah. Well, he beats out the Native American, right? So, that's running. So, okay, what do we got here? Not quite one. Maybe I'll take some calls. See if I can take a call here. So, give me 1 second. I'll get on that. Yeah, just a quick update. The Patriot panel next week will be on my channel. And thanks to American Joe for putting that together. So, it'll be, for those of you that are my regulars, or maybe you're new tonight, you get a chance to see me host instead of just flap my gums the whole time. It'll be a big opportunity for me. I'll have a lot of... Oh, the beef on Shapiro. Yeah, great subject. So, I feel like Shapiro is a Romney-esque Republican. He is an establishment Republican. And you could see it. Again, he's smart. Shapiro's very smart. Great debater. And he understands how to not alienate his audience. So he's saying things that you have to look for with a careful eye. But he does things that constantly show me that he's kind of virtue signaling to the left. He wants to be part of the establishment class, in my opinion. So, for example, let's take a simple issue. You have Joy Reid, who supposedly said homophobic things, then lied and said that her account was hacked, then lied and said the FBI was looking into it, etc. Or you had Kathy Griffin, the severed head of Trump, right? You've had Ralph Northam, blackface. Now, I was on the same side as Shapiro with all those issues. I said, I don't want to see people lose their jobs over that stuff. I think it's stupid if it was a joke and it was in bad spirit or people changed their minds. I don't want to see people lose their jobs for things that they said that was potentially offensive. Shapiro agrees with me. Now, let's go to Roseanne Barr, who's someone who's basically conservative, sort of a Trump supporter. I believe Roseanne Barr's explanation of what she said was absolutely believable, where she said Valerie Jarrett looked like someone from Planet of the Apes. Now, Valerie Jarrett happens to be African American. But if you saw a picture of her, she's very light complected and you might not get that. And I don't think she was saying because she's black, she's like a monkey. I feel that it was an innocent mistake. Roseanne said, I didn't even know she was black. I was just saying her facial feature looked like someone from that Planet of the Apes makeup. Now, offensive, maybe poor taste when you have a huge show to do that. But she was fired. And Ben Shapiro was all for that. Now, why is that? Well, because he don't want to be labeled as defending a racist, right? Because that'll hurt his image with the establishment. Shapiro also did other things when it became evident to even some small person like me, who's doing my own research, who's not the largest growing conservative podcast in America, like Ben Shapiro, with a huge budget, with a research team, with all sorts of people at his network. I could see the corruption of the FBI early. Shapiro, until the IG came out, fought tooth and nail. Oh, I think it's just a conspiracy. People are going too far saying that the FBI did something corrupt. They're going too far with that. I don't believe that. I don't think Trump did anything worthy of impeachment, or I don't see proof that he colluded with Russia, but I don't see proof that the FBI. But the proof was out there for everyone to see. It's just that Ben Shapiro didn't want to talk about it. He goes on Joe Rogan's show and he talks about this. He basically says he never thinks that the government acts corrupt. He just thinks that there's incompetence. So, for example, he wouldn't think that Obama helping overthrow Libya, that wasn't corrupt. That was just incompetence. I disagree. And that allows the corrupt establishment to further foster and to further fester and get stronger. It seems to me like Ben Shapiro is super for Trump anytime Trump's doing something to help Israel. But at the same time, on other issues, he won't hesitate to throw Trump under the bus. And he also has double standards. For example, I defended someone that I don't like, Rashida Tlaib, Ilan Tamar. Which one of them was it when they said, I think it was Tlaib, when she said about, what's the word? AIPAC, the Israeli lobbying farm. She said it's all about the Benjamins. Now, I gave her the benefit of the doubt and said this wasn't a racial stereotype that Jews are rich. This was a comment on lobbying from the Israeli government, which you should have every right to say. They unfairly lobby, they spend too much money, and it influences our politics in ways it shouldn't. That's not racial. That's a reasonable thing to say. You might disagree, but I don't think it's racial. So Ben Shapiro, he'll give people, anytime that they say anything that's like anti-white or anti-cop, he gives people the benefit of the doubt. But as soon as someone says something that you have to jump through hoops to say is anti-Semitic, oh, he's on it just like that. He plays that victim card as much as humanly possible. Right? So that's some of my... Right, John Jacobs. So that's some of my beefs with Shapiro. I think he's establishment. Now, he's smart. He's right about a lot of stuff. I agree with him. He's got some good, takes where you can see him talking to liberals and things like that. So, Preacher, you want to call in? All right, I'll get it out here in a second. So, no, I moved the pillows to the floor so you couldn't see it in the background here. Again, my background should be up tomorrow. What it does is it goes around my chair, then I'll move my camera closer so you can just see the background. So, yeah, that's what's going on. For John Jacobs and everyone in here, if you like talking to each other and talking to me, this is my Discord channel. If you don't know what Discord is, again, I'll repeat it. It's just like a platform. It's kind of like Reddit. It's just there's different channels. So this would be a channel for this show, Normal America, where we could all talk to each other. You don't have to worry about Discord kicking you off if you say something. So, yeah, if you like talking to other people on here, a community where you could talk with these people off of when I'm doing live streams, check out that Discord channel. It's real easy to get Discord and subscribe. Not difficult at all. So, yeah, there you go, Big Sky. Check it out. All right, I'll post the number if we got some potential callers here. Let's see if I can figure it out. By the way, did you see, let me tell you, if you watch the Patriot Super Panel, Dustin that did it with us today, Dustin's fantastic. He runs Doug Ducote's show. He's a great producer, and I think he's a really smart guy. So it's a good combo. So it was nice to see him on there today. But man, I have so much trouble trying to do my own producing, like setting up all this stuff. And I have a lot of great people that help me out with it, but it's tough, to be talking the whole time while you're doing this stuff. So, okay. So unlike with Dustin, I don't have a fancy system for first come, first serve. We'll try to keep it a little short in case multiple people want to call in. But go ahead. You can disagree with me, insult me, whatever works for me. Let's try to keep the insults to the curtains to a minimum. I'm working on it. So here's the number. Go ahead and call. Yeah, they're definitely actors, Laura. I totally agree. Thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I try to, about every night during the week, I try to do a live stream. But yeah, there's the number. Anything you want to talk about? And please don't hesitate to disagree with me. I love that, makes the show more fun. And you should be able to disagree with people in a polite way. And by the way, if no one wants to call in, that's fine too. I did figure out you could use your cell phone, or you can go to, all I have is a Google Voice number. So you can call directly from your computer. But yeah, don't feel bad if I cut you off if there are more people trying to call in. So yeah, the line's jamming up. What's that? Line's jamming up. Too many calls at once. I don't need people to call. I could talk for hours on my own. I don't know if you all noticed that. But we'll give it a second and see if someone calls in. So what else can I talk about? We'll at least go to 1 a.m. So I got 17 minutes to cover. What topic? Oh, we got a call. Thank you, Linda. Let me answer this call.
Call from
Fret Fingers.
to accept, press 1.
All right, we got Fret Fingers on the line. Thanks for calling, man.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Great. Having a good evening. Trying to get my voice back. I think it's coming, so.
Yeah, it was a good panel, man. You do well on that. That was really enjoyable to watch.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Those guys are great. I think we have a good rapport. And one of the things I really like is we all have like a different specialty or a different style and authenticity that comes through. So I think it's a great idea. And kudos to American Joe for bringing people together.
Yeah, but you guys are missing the whole root of the whole problem, and it really upsets me that, you know, the so-called pundits nowadays, I'm over 60 years old, so I go back a ways, are not addressing the real problem. With, you know, the cause of the whole problem is the corrupt financial system, starting with going off the gold standard on the fiat currency back in the 70s. That's the root of everything, if you look at it.
Yeah, so I want to do a whole video on the Federal Reserve. So let me see if I get my dates right. So basically on Christmas Eve in 1913, there was a vote that Woodrow Wilson, who was put in by the bankers, put the vote that basically did two things. It created the Federal Reserve and it created the income tax. Now they held this vote on Christmas Eve because they knew the majority of Congress was out. Up until this point in American history, the biggest fight that went on domestically was trying to stop corrupt bankers from controlling our currency. So you had I'm a speech communication master. I got a master's degree in it. One of the famous speeches you talk about is this guy, William Jennings Bryan. And he wrote a speech, it was called the Cross of Gold speech. What that was about was bankers at the time were trying to buy all of the gold up in the countries so that they could then inflate and deflate the currency because it was backed by gold by releasing into the public and coming back with the access to gold. So William Jennings Bryan proposed a silver standard. So we had this vote in the middle of the night, and immediately all of the depressions and things we've had is a result of artificial contraction and inflation of our monetary system. That's been going on since 1913. And you're right, Ron Paul is the politician who talked about this the most, the need to audit the Fed and things like that. I'll give you a chance to talk here again in a second. But the one thing I'll say is you're absolutely right to talk about this. The fact that Trump hasn't done anything to stop this means I am predicting that the Federal Reserve will weaponize the economy against Trump and try to artificially create a recession before the election to stop Trump from getting elected. That's how powerful and how corrupt it is.
Yeah, I'm a big follower of Ron Paul ever since the beginning. I actually voted for him in 2012. I actually had to become a Republican, even though I'm an independent, in order to get, vote for him locally, because in Illinois you have to be a member of the Republican Party to vote in the primary.
Right.
So I had to do that. Even now I get all kinds of bullshit spam from the Republican Party, and I never really, I had to pay $5 to join, but I never renewed it. But anyway, the main problem though is the fractional reserve system and the fiat dollar has come since then. Mm-hmm. And they've been using that for corruption ever since. I mean, I made some points that my father bought a house in 1976 for $26,000, 3-bedroom ranch with a basement. Not a ranch, but a Victorian with a basement, property, everything in the heart of Chicago. $26,000 in 1976.
Wow.
That's what inflation has done.
Oh, it's right. You're absolutely right. I mean, what's the law, right? There's a couple laws. So there's this one law that they always talk about, and I'm drawing a blank right now because it's late. But what that did was basically that. So it used to be banks could only lend out the money that they had in their actual coffers. Now the law is like they're allowed to lend out up to like 30 times or some ridiculous number more than what they actually own in their coffers. And there was a law that was like, oh, they should only be allowed to lend out up to 10 times what they actually have. Think of how insane that is.
It's 10 squared.
What's that?
10 squared now.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that insane? So you think about it. If everyone tomorrow went to the bank and said, okay, I want to take my money out, there would only be about 10. There's only the actual dollars in print for about 10% of the dollars that are in circulation. It's all digital.
Okay, one little quick fact.
Yeah.
One little quick fact, and then I'll let you go to another caller. The Federal Reserve actually has been nationalized. In 2013, the 100-year charter was up. They never renewed it. Shortly after that, the Federal Reserve website went from .com to .gov.
Really?
So it actually has been surreptitiously absorbed by the Treasury Department, but it's never been announced.
Wow. Well, I did not know that, and that's something I'll have to check out. But yeah, thanks so much for calling. That's a great call. And before I take another call, I'll talk more about it. But thank you as always, Fret Fingers. Have a good night, man.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. So just to talk a little about fiat currency and what happened with the Federal Reserve again, it seems like a very complicated thing. And here's the problem with our economic system. It's intentionally complicated. That way they can screw you, the average hardworking person that's not in the know, out of your money. So what happens is this, like, it used to be, think of what money is. Like, go back to the beginning. What is money? Money is just a symbol that we use to trade things of value. That's all it is. So go back to the days of, like, the barter system. Maybe you raise goats and I farm apples. Well, it's hard for me to go to the market carrying all my apples and you all of your goats. So you need some apples. So you come to me and you're like, hey, Rob, you know me. I'm good for it. Here's a slip good for one goat. Give me a bushel of apples, and then when you get around to my place, hand me this slip, and I'll give you your goat. Yeah, no problem. That's basically how money started, right? So then we ended up realizing that, we had all these things that we considered other symbols for value, things like precious metals, gold, things like that. Well, it was hard to carry all that around, so you stored it in a bank, and then the bank gave you a note, and you could come back and get that gold anytime you wanted. So $1 worth of gold, or whatever the currency was at the time. Makes sense, right? You want to carry all this gold around or carry all these trading products around. So you put it all in a bank. So the bank gives out note. Let's say the bank gets 100 pounds of gold. And we'll just say, for simplicity's sake, each pound is worth $1 that they give out. So you bring in your 1 pound nugget of gold, you get a slip that says, this is good for 1 nugget of gold, right? But let's say the bank decides to say, you know what I'm going to do? Because then you don't even have to get the gold anymore. Everyone starts to trust, hey, I could go get the gold anytime I want. This note is good for that gold. So they just start trading the notes. Well, the banker realizes this, right? And he's like, wow, what if I just started printing notes? Who would know? They would assume that's how much gold I have in here. So right now I have 100 notes printed, that I have 100 blocks of gold. But if I print another 100, no one's going to be any the wiser. Then I spend that 100 and people just assume. As long as people never come to the bank to take the gold out, no one's any the wiser. But in reality, what you've done is you've just cut the value of that note in half. So you at home that was holding your one note for your one gold nugget, now that there are double the notes out there, a note's only worth half a gold nugget. That's what fractional reserve banking does. It allows them to create money out of thin air, and then they give it to their lobbyist friends. The people that are connected get that money first. One of the terms they use for it, and it gets very complicated, and I'm not going to claim to be an economic master, is called quantitative easing. And that's basically the process the Fed does, is lending money out at basically 0% interest rates. The people that benefit are the people that directly get the money from the Fed. So those that are highest up the food chain, they get access to that money first, benefit hugely. They get 0 interest loans. Now, because of inflation, it's naturally occurring. That means that even if you just took that 0%, if you gave me $1 trillion today at 0% interest, all I have to do is put it in a savings account, and I'm going to make huge amounts of money with doing nothing. I haven't created any wealth. I just put it in an account and allowed interest to accrue. So these people get that money, and they're guaranteed to basically make a profit off it. But what happens is those of us at the bottom that don't have access to that, we suffer from inflation. So like the caller was saying, a house that you used to be able to buy for $25,000, now it's going to cost hundreds of thousands. That's why when they talk about real wages haven't increased, that's what's going on. Inflation is rising faster than your wages are. So maybe 10 years ago you were making $12 an hour and now you're making $15 an hour. So you're like, hey, I'm increasing, I'm advancing. But not really, not if inflation's gone up more than $3. That means your $15 buys less than your $12 used to. And that's a huge problem we have. Right, Big Sky says soon all money will be digital and cash will cease to exist. Exactly, but it's still fundamentally the same thing. It's just instead of having a paper note, you have a digital note. So you have lines on a bank sheet. But that line on a bank sheet still should represent some wealth. Well, now there is no gold. So it used to be that your dollars back in the day would say redeemable by gold. Now, I don't even know if I have a dollar on me. Let me see. Now it says, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Right? That's what your dollar bill is saying. See, I'm not that poor. I got $1. So think about what fiat currency is. Fiat currency is currency that's not backed by gold or silver or something of value. The value of fiat currency is, and this sounds really confusing, it is faith. That's the value of fiat. Currency that's not backed by something is only backed by people's faith in the currency, right? Which sounds complicated, but think about this, right? So if our money's not backed by gold, say you're starting a country today, right? I'm going to start the country of, what would it be? United States of Rob. What a terrible name. I don't think I'm starting a country anytime soon, but my country, Robistan, you know? Okay, I'm starting a country, and I need currency, but I'm not going to back the currency by gold or silver. I'm just going to print currency. So I go to a private bank. That's what the Federal Reserve was. That caller said it was nationalized. Maybe, but this is how it started out. So I go to the Federal Reserve, and I say, hey, I need money. I need money to push around. And the Federal Reserve goes, oh, okay, we'll print you $10,000, but you got to pay it back with interest. So at the end of the year, you have to pay us $15,000. We'll give you $10,000 now. We'll just say 11. We'll give you $10,000 now, but at the end of the year, you have to pay us $11,000. Okay. So I get the $10,000. I give it out how I want. I'm the leader of this country. Hey, you work hard. You get this, you get this, you get this. Bam. End of the year comes. Federal Reserve knocks on the door. They say, oh, okay, Rob, you owe us that $10,000 or $11,000. And I say, I don't even have $11,000. I only have $10,000. That's all you gave me. There are literally only $10,000 in existence. So how can I pay 11? Plus, I kind of want to keep this going. And the bank says, oh, okay, hear us out. We'll lend you another $10,000. But next year, you're going to owe us $22,000 back. That's what we have. And so inevitably, what does this bank get? They get wealth. They get the things of value, whether it be property, land, your labor, the sweat of your brow. That's what they reap in the interest. If we paid literally all of the national debt off, do you know how many dollars would be in circulation? 0. Every dollar is just an IOU. That's all it is. It's literally an IOU to the Federal Reserve. There is no precious metal backing that currency. Now you're like, what about the gold in Fort Knox? Well, one, who knows how much is in there anyways. And second, that gold just represents people's faith. The gold is not literally backing the money. The gold is representing something to give people faith that there is value behind the money. But if everyone rushed the bank at the same time and decided to take their money out, the jig would be up. Everyone would realize, wait a minute. I thought I had $10,000 in the bank, but it's gone. You see this in countries all the time. They call it a bank holiday, where they'll say, okay, you can't come get your money now. The government will shut down the banks and say you can't come get it. So I hope I explained that. And I by no means am an expert on this stuff, but that's the general, just trying to explain it in a way that's easy for me to digest and hopefully easy for you to digest. That's why we need to end these sorts of practices, because the people that get screwed are the people that are lowest down the food, that are least connected to the initial borrowers. Because you don't get the privilege of borrowing at 0%. You don't get the privilege of getting these artificially created dollars. You're still busting your hump at a job to get money. So the value of your money is decreasing. Now, add that insult to things like the 2008 financial crisis. where you had all these mortgages. You had these banks giving out mortgages to people they knew couldn't pay them off. So maybe you're making $10 an hour, but the bank gives you a mortgage for a $300,000 house. They know you're never going to be able to pay that back. You're going to default, but they give you the mortgage anyways. Then you have these securities where basically you have these agencies that rate how good are these specific mortgages. And they basically give them a letter grade, like A through F. Well, an F would be that guy that got the mortgage for $300,000 but's only making $10. It's an F because no one wants to invest in that mortgage. No one wants to take that note because it'll never get paid back. So what they did was they lied. They bundled all these terrible mortgages in with good mortgages. And then your 401k, your company invests you in, bought these mortgage securities. And then they failed. They defaulted. And so then you, who worked your butt off and was investing, your retirement savings were what were stolen. Now, this was very profitable to the banks. They were making money hand over fist when they were originally doing it because instead they had all these crappy mortgages that they thought they weren't going to get paid on. But now they sold them to you. So they got their money for it. But then when it all fell apart and the banks were left holding the note, who bailed them out? You, the taxpayer, that's who. Now, did any of them go to jail? Think of what they did. They capitalized gains. So when they won, they got the money. And they socialized losses. When they lost, you paid for it. Now that's not only criminal and unethical, but clearly damaging strategically to the country. Did anybody go to jail? No, not really. So it's going to happen again. The problem is, just like with the fractional reserve banking and the Federal Reserve, it's so complicated that the average person doesn't know they're getting screwed. It's like watching did you ever watch, what do they call it, like that 3-card Monty, where you take 3 cards, like ace, king, queen, and they're like, find the ace, and they slide them all around, and you bet $5. The guy running the game's making it so complicated, he's so good at sleight of hand that you never win. But you don't realize you're basically playing a game that you can't win. That's what's happening. They make it so complicated. They're moving the hand so fast that you're like, oh, okay. Sorry, David. So, I don't know. Did people like that explanation? I hope it made sense. But that caller's absolutely right. I mean, it is a big deal. And we have these discussions. What is the root of the problem? It's difficult. Everything's so intertwined. Is that financial system? I mean, there's good evidence. There's a book I read a long time ago. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island, which you should all read. Sounds like a horror book. It kind of is, but not in the way you think. There's an island called Jekyll Island where all of these bankers got together and they decided at this meeting at this island that they were going to push forth a presidential candidate who was basically a figurehead and control that candidate. And the one they chose was Woodrow Wilson, who I believe was a professor at Princeton, but he basically had no political experience really to speak of. He was basically just an empty vessel. Hey, go do what we tell you. Okay, so he did. And they came up with this plan for the income tax and the Federal Reserve. I mean, you had before this presidents like Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson hated the banks so much, he was quoted as saying that he wanted his tombstone to say, "Here lies Andrew Jackson, I killed the banks." You had people like, I think it was Jefferson said that more than any outside standing army was a threat to the United States was the interest of private bankers. Benjamin Franklin, we used to have what was called greenbacks, and the greenbacks were not fiat currency. They were actually backed by gold and things like that. And our federal government, as the Constitution said, printed and coined its own money. So Benjamin Franklin was kind of this celebrity. He was in something called the Hellfire Club. He was actually like not to get gross, but he was into like these crazy sex orgies and stuff. But he was basically like a rock star of the age. So the United States sent him over to the UK, and he's like, just hobnobbing with all these elite. And they thought, it'd be the equivalent of like, Jimi Hendrix or something. It was like, whoa, all these like hoity-toity elites, like, look at this Benjamin Franklin character. He's like, he's so rowdy. He's like drinking all this booze, and he's like this smart guy, crazy American, And at one point they asked him, they said, listen, you have a fledgling country. How are you massively increasing your power and wealth in the United States so fast? And Benjamin Franklin said, this is paraphrasing, but he was like, well, it's easy. We print and coin our own money. Every dollar you use in Britain is borrowed by a private bank. And so you enrich the bank, not the country. We just enrich the country. And as a result of that, we actually fought the War of 1812. One of the primary causes of the war in 1812 was actually the bankers like the Rothschilds and others in the Britain saying, no, you can no longer print your own money. We won't accept it. You have to borrow money from these private banks. So way back then, even with the founding fathers, they understood the problem of allowing our currency to be controlled by these corrupt bankers. And we're still suffering today. Like, that's a battle that we lost in 1913. That's why if you ever hear people say, well, the income tax is unconstitutional, show me in the law where it says I have to pay an income tax. And Ron Paul was all over this. He wanted to remove the income tax, as we should. A sales tax is enough. When you go and you purchase something, you pay a tax on it. The government gets a portion of that. But they should not be entitled to a portion of your labor. Your labor should be yours alone. So you get taxed both ways. You get taxed when you work, then you get taxed when you spend. And that's ridiculous. Right, done playing around. That's exactly what it is. It's massive. It's a power grab. Now, what is the government, right? So it's more power for the government, but the government is composed of people. So it's more power for those people. So it's a clever way to siphon away your freedom, your liberty, your wealth, and siphon it to others. And most of the time, despite what they tell you, it's not them siphoning money from you and giving it to the less fortunate. It almost always ends up with increased power and wealth in the hands of the more powerful. So it's a scheme to erase the middle class. That's what governments have been about for years. That's what our founding fathers knew. And now we're fighting just a more technocratic, more complicated version of the same old game. It really is. Yeah, Ron Paul, that's where I got all this. He woke me up to all of this. I'm not saying it as good as he's... But I hope I'm explaining it to a way that just an average person can understand. That's what's going on with this stuff. So that's why we need to audit. The first step that Ron Paul suggested was audit the Fed. What's on the bank sheet of the Federal Reserve? What are their debts? What are their earnings, right? How much wealth do they have? Right, Umpire Post, that leads the people that control that money lead to the power and control. And they want to eliminate the middle class. Right? This goes hand in hand when I'm talking about the globalists. When you heard people like Bill Cooper or Alex Jones, right? They talk about a one world government. One of the things they would talk about is you'll end up with 3 different centralized governments before you get to the one world government. You have the North American Union, the European Union, and the Asian Union, right? That's what they talked about. And everyone laughed at that. Well, we have the European Union. Now, there's fight back against it, thank God. But that's what it's about. It's about this globalized system. Because then the bigger that governmental power becomes, the more ability it is for them to siphon the wealth of everyone not connected to that establishment. The more individual countries they are, the more localized government is, the more difficult it is for them to siphon that wealth. Because it tends that local governments are held more accountable to the actual people they're representing. Think about it. You probably know your mayor or have easier access to your mayor than you do Trump or to your governor. So that's why they want a one world government, because it'll be so... Look at the poor people that voted for Brexit in the UK. They basically have no voice in all of the people in Brussels that are making laws that dictate the lives of the people in the UK that people in the UK don't even get to vote for. So it's easy then to take the wealth of the people of the UK when even the symbolic gesture of voting is removed. That's what globalism's about. But the biggest stumbling block to it is the middle class, particularly in the United States. So that's where we need to be fighting back. And I say this over and over. I'll finish up on this. You look at their utopia, it would be somewhere like LA or San Francisco. They want a return to feudalism. They don't mind controlling you. You're like a pet to them. They'll feed you. They'll provide you housing. Give them all the money, all the power. You become totally sniveling and obedient to them. They'll throw you bread in circuses, but don't you dare criticize them. They live in the castle. You're the serf that lives around it. You wallow in feces and hypodermic needles, and they'll give you some bread when they feel like it. But you better worship them. You better recognize that they're your better. That's what they want. That's the globalist dream. That's what socialism will help achieve. So, there you go. A little lecture. It looks like we're screwed. Maybe not though. The information's getting out there. On one hand, yeah, that looks bad. On the other hand, I'm some chubby guy sitting in a chair talking to 33 people right now. And I'm one of millions. People are waking up. They're stopping. Look at Brexit. Look at the election of Trump. People are getting fed up with the establishment and the globalists. See, that's the thing. Both sides, right? Did you ever watch the movie, what's it called? It stars Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino, where Al Pacino's the devil. Oh, goodness. Why can't I think of it right now? I actually like that movie. Devil's Advocate was the name of the movie. And, man, Pacino's Satan, but he's running this law firm, and Keanu Reeves is this great lawyer, and he doesn't realize that, Al Pacino, his boss, is Satan. But at the end, he starts to find out, and, Keanu Reeves is trying to do the right thing, like, oh, the devil. And the devil's talking to him, right? And he's like, I like humans. It's God that says you can look, but don't touch. You can touch, but don't feel. You can feel, but don't taste, right? He's like, I'm a fan of humans. I'm a fan of all your sins. It's God that doesn't like you. And Keanu, this is the line that I'm bringing this up. Keanu says, but I read the Bible. I know that you lose. And the devil says, well, consider the source. They're not going to write that they lose. Now, I know that's fiction. I'm not saying anything about religion. But when you hear the globalists talk, they're confident they'll win. But consider the source. Of course they're confident they'll win. Because they're them. They're not going to say we're going to lose. We're confident we'll win too, right? You listen to people, they say, oh, Trump's going to lock them all up. And I don't know what the outcome will be. I know this, regardless if you're religious, right? Or if you're not. If you're religious, you could pray or whatever, and you do, and you have faith, but you also know that God wants you to help yourself, or Jesus wants you to help yourself. If you're not religious, the same is true. Personal responsibility. You personally doing what you can to make things better. So that's what I'm trying. Do I fail all the time? Of course, I fail all the time. I wish I was better. I fail every day. I really do. But that's what it's about. So are we screwed or are we guaranteed victory? I don't know. I would say neither. It's all in what we do. But all of us have a place in this battle. We really do. Whether it's me talking on YouTube or running for Congress. Maybe you're not comfortable talking on, not just YouTube, by the way. I'm on DLive, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope. But maybe you're not comfortable doing that type of thing, but you're just telling your family and friends. Or maybe you're just showing people by your actions why our side is the correct side. That's what it's about. So that's what I'm trying to do. It says, most of these people have simply become nothing but some random hominid engraving random shit on tree shavings. Talking about the media and stuff, I'm assuming. Yeah, I agree. Thank you! John Jacobs liking what Fret Fingers had to say. Awesome. But yeah. Financial Slave. I would tune into that song, John Jacobs. So, all right. Be wrapping up here. So if you've been new tonight, please like and subscribe. If you're one of the people that normally watch me, I'm losing some subscribers. I don't know why. So just make sure that you're still notified and subscribed. I would really appreciate that. The number one way you can all help me is getting my channel out there. If my channel's not for you, no problem, no hard feelings. If I had to sum up in 30 seconds, I just talked to a friend of mine today that's an independent. He likes a lot of what Trump does, dislikes some of Trump, but we talked about this. He's going to be helping me with music on my channel as well, but we'll get to that at a later date. But, he was like, sum up your channel. What's your channel about? I'm trying to point out what I see as the corruption, what I see as the problems with our governance, and I'm trying to do so in a way where I'm willing to talk to people that agree with me, disagree with me, people that are right-wing, people that are left-wing. I'm trying to have fun. I'm trying to be authentic. I'm trying to show that it's okay to deal with heavy issues but still have fun in life, still have a sense of humor. It's okay to talk to people you disagree with and still have a good relationship with. It's okay to have people debate you and prove that you're wrong or you prove that they're wrong. So in a nutshell, that's what my channel is. And I'm trying to give voice to normal Americans that don't have a voice anymore. I try to explain things to those people that I respect most in life that are blue-collar workers. That's what my channel's about. So I hope that you like it if you're new. please consider subscribing. The best thing you all could do is, if you got any social media platform or just in real life, tell your friends about my show or whatever. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to grow. Thank you all so much. I officially submitted my application for monetization. I'm less concerned about the money and more concerned with that means I will officially be allowed to stream when I go out to like Republican events. So I'm very excited. That was my first goal with this channel. So thank you all so much for meeting that goal. Go to the description in my channel on this video. Just right, for those of you that this will work on DLive and YouTube. I think that's the only two it'll work. If you're on Facebook, check me out at YouTube. The link's on my Facebook channel. But if you go to the description of my YouTube page, you can find out how to follow me on Twitter, Twitch, DLive, BitChute, places like that. You can also, I would really appreciate if you could support me financially on PayPal or Patreon. If you can't, that's okay. I get it. I have trouble supporting myself financially, so I totally get it. But I am going to be putting videos up that show exactly what all of the donations I've received so far have gotten me and what I am looking to get next. So I'll actually show you the actual device that I'm going to buy. All right, Preacher, I'll give you a call when I'm done here. I only got a couple minutes, though, because I got to get up at 6 for a run. Hello, I'll probably be running for the House, though part of me wants to run for Senate against Pat Toomey for even suggesting that we bring up witnesses like John Bolton in the impeachment coup. But yeah, it'll probably be the House of Representatives. I can't tell you what district, though, because we will probably get redistricted because I believe Pennsylvania is losing a seat after the recent census. So I don't know what my district will be. But wherever Clarion County, whatever district it is, that's what I'll be running for. Unless whoever is running is the incumbent starts doing really great things for the country. Because I don't feel entitled to a job. I'm running because, not to get a job, but because I think I could do better than the person that's there. If for whatever reason I don't feel I could do better, then I won't run. The last thing is I'll put up this Discord thing again. Again, it sounds like, I know I'm kind of a technophobe. Oh, maybe I won't put up the Discord thing again. Never mind. Oh, wait. There it is. Yeah, I can put it up. I'll put it up again. I know I'm a technophobe. I'm hesitant to go to news sites, but trust me, Discord's really easy. It's not like going to give you a virus or anything to download. It's just real simple where you can chat with other people that are in this video. A lot of you are having great conversations without me, so that's what I'm about. Like, it doesn't have to be about me, about the community, so thank you so much for that. So yeah, I'll be about wrapping up. I'll call you here in a second, Preacher. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm humbled that each and every one of you would be here. I really am. It means a lot to me. That even one person would be willing to listen to me ramble on about this stuff. It's really encouraging. It gives you some optimism. Have fun. Stay authentic. Have a great life. Don't get too down about this stuff. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to win these battles. We're going to win it through information. We're going to win it in a civilized, fun, authentic way. And we're going to have a great time standing on the shoulders of giants that came before us, making them proud that we're helping this country maintain to be the greatest in the world. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good one.